The Peculiar Tale of Jacob Miles, written by Tim Gritman, narrated by the author. Chapter 1. You don't know me. You don't know who I am. You have no idea what I have to deal with on a daily basis. I know you're going to judge me. Everyone else does. No one really believes me when I tell them what is going on, when I tell them the entire story, the entire truth. Hell, I know that I don't even believe me sometimes, and I'm living it day in and day out. Maybe you will be different, or maybe not. I am different. I always have been, always will be. I've always been a bit of an outsider, never really fitting in. I've always been a bit of a loner, never really being accepted by those around me. For the most part, I don't really care. I've accepted who I am as a person, and if you can't, then that is your problem and not mine. As far as I'm concerned, it's not really my job to change your mind about me. Quite honestly, if I have to change your mind, then I don't really want you in my life either. I guess I should introduce myself. My name is Jacob Miles, and I am 24 years old. I live out in the country in an old farmhouse with my roommate, Larry Journal, and he's 35. Larry is probably the closest thing I have to a friend. There aren't many that call me their friend anymore. I used to have friends back before it happened. I'll tell you more on that later, and that's probably where I will lose you. Nobody really takes me seriously after I tell them about that. Larry and I got this house pretty cheap. It needed some fixing up and some tender loving care, but Larry and I are both pretty handy with the basic tools needed to get it back into shape and livable again. It's on a nice piece of land that is surrounded by a grove of trees on the west side and a small creek on the north and east sides. It's quiet and isolated, which is what really held its appeal. I've always liked peace, quiet, and isolation, even before I became more different than I already was. We do have a couple neighbors, but their houses are just outside shouting distance, so I'm not really sure if I'd really call them neighbors as what I'd call them people who live nearby. Honestly, I'm not sure if I'd really call them people either, as they've made it crystal clear just what they think of me. Jerks. Larry gets along with them better than I do, but since he lives in the same house as I do, he is treated differently too. Larry and I are both single. I'm single because I'm different. Larry's single because he lives with me. He's brought a few girls home before, and the only time he's even had a chance with any of them is if I stay in my room and pretend I don't exist. I know Larry stays with me because he knows that I would pretty much be alone if he didn't stay with me. I really do feel sorry for him sometimes because I feel like I've cursed him somehow. He could move out and have a better social life, a family, and probably even kids. I feel like I'm this dark shadow on his life that he somehow feels sorry for. That's not the right word, though. He doesn't feel sorry for me. He's told me that already. He just doesn't want me to live alone because he's worried about me. He knows all about why I'm different. I've tried to be honest with him about it as I can, telling him secrets that would scare anyone out of their mind. Surprisingly enough, even after everything he has seen firsthand, and after listening to everything I've told him, He has remained my roommate, so I call him a friend, even though I'm not sure if he's really my friend. He's just someone that lives with me and doesn't look at me like I have three heads or something. I know that's not really being fair since he has been through a lot with me, and he likely wouldn't still be here if he wasn't really my friend. Larry and I share the kitchen, we share the bathroom, and we sort of share the living room. When I say sort of, I really mean that he usually has the living room, and I spend a great deal of time in my room writing. He would sometimes ask me to join him in the living room to watch a movie, or play a game, or something, but after I steadily declined his invitations, he figures that I know the offer stands and no longer asks. If you were to look at me, I really don't appear that much different than a normal person. I have black hair, which I usually part in the center. I don't like my hair to be too long, so I usually keep it trimmed pretty short, never longer than to my neck. I usually tower over everybody at a height of 6'4", and I have a slender frame and build. It gives me a scarecrow-like image, since I'm unusually thin for someone of my height. I have green eyes, and I wear glasses. I usually don't have any facial hair, mainly because I can't actually grow it. It would take me a year to even grow a mustache. Even after a year, it is pretty much see-through, so I don't bother growing anything out. Even though they say that you can't judge a book by its cover, I get judged anyway. Even if someone does take the time to get to know me, they soon form an opinion, and usually that opinion isn't very good. So I usually don't even bother. It sucks being so alone. It wasn't like I asked for this life. It's not like I asked for any of this. Oh well, I've just learned to accept it and keep on doing what I'm doing. I'm tired of getting hurt by people, so rather than get rejected once they start getting to know me, I just reject them before they have the chance. It means living a pretty lonely life. Never having someone to love, never having children, and never having a family. I never had a family, so I guess it doesn't really matter if I ever started one of my own. I'm not telling you any of this to make you feel sorry for me. Honestly, I couldn't give a care what you think. I'm simply telling you this in an effort to help you understand where I'm coming from and what I'm thinking. I figure I'm going to tell you some of this before I tell you any of the more unusual circumstances. While I still have your attention, while I still have some degree of credibility in your eyes, you'll listen to some of this. Once I start telling you about the other, well, who knows? This has probably been the hardest thing I've ever had to deal with in my life, and I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. I've thought about ending my life a lot since everything changed. Hell, I've even attempted suicide a few different times. Go figure, I can't even do that right. Seems like someone or something always stops me. Whether it be Larry or someone else finding out my intentions or some other unexplained event, I have been foiled so far in each of my attempts. Who knows? Maybe there is a reason why I have failed at that thus far. Maybe there is a reason that I am still here today to write this. I spend a great deal of my time writing. It's my only real outlet. It's the only place I can really attempt to put everything into words and not have to worry about what kind of reaction that I will get. I do have a full-time job at the gas station down the road. I'm responsible for half of the expenses, so I do feel obligated to have some sort of income. I couldn't expect Larry to help me in that way also. Thankfully, we don't really have a lot of expenses out here, so I'm not really pressured to earn a lot. It's probably a good thing too. If I had to have a really well-paying job to survive, I probably wouldn't survive. Most well-paying jobs require you to have either a good education, good social skills, or both. I obviously don't have any good social skills. In order to get a good education, you need to have fairly decent social skills to get through classes. Since I'm so antisocial for numerous reasons, I'm fairly stuck. As long as the bills get paid, I don't really care. I can work in a dead-end job every day as long as I come home and write. Hell, I probably wouldn't even have my job running the register at the Pump and Go anyway if it wasn't for Larry. Larry owns the station and manages it. He's probably made allowances for me in that way. Other employees might not. Scratch that, I know he has. If it was anyone else running that place, I would have been canned a long time ago. It's not like I do or say anything bad, or that bad, to anybody. I don't always say everything I'm thinking, which is probably a good thing, or else I'd probably be either in jail or in a psychiatric ward somewhere. That being said, if someone judges me or says something to me that I don't agree with or is insulting, I usually let them know. It's not like I'm going to salvage anything with anybody, since they reject me anyway. But I also don't let them bully me either. I'm not mean about it, but I also don't beat around the bush, and nothing is sugar-coated. I will not be belittled without letting them know what they're doing. If they want to insult me or put me down, fine, whatever. But I'm going to let them know that's what they're doing, and whether or not they want an award for being better than me. Thankfully, I haven't really done anything to drive business away, or else even Larry might think twice about keeping me on the payroll. I can't even hardly remember what my life was like before it all changed. I probably took my life for granted the same way as everyone else on this planet does. I probably just assumed that every day the sun would rise and I would wake up same as every other day. I probably just figured that there would be someone who I would want to settle down with and have a future with. I probably just assumed that my future would be something that I would enjoy living. For the most part, I think almost everybody all shares these thoughts and feels that way. I thought perhaps that is what would eventually happen for me, but I had no idea how wrong I was. How different things could get in such a short time. I try to hang on to different things about my life prior. I try to keep what I can about who I was, who I thought I would be, what I dreamed about doing, and where I dreamed about going. It's difficult to remember all of that. It's difficult for me to hold on to it and to keep it uncorrupted by everything that is now. When I look back, it's like that was someone completely different. Like I am a different person now. Like my entire DNA has changed to create an entirely new and unique person. Hell, who knows, maybe it has. I couldn't tell you for sure on that one. But I can tell you that the person I have become is not the person I would have chosen to become. So for now, I just keep on living day by day, since I don't really see many other choices. I've probably written enough to fill a small library. Thankfully, all of my writing is done on my computer. It is all in digital format and easier to store than notebooks would be. I'd probably have them stacked from floor to ceiling in several rooms if that was my writing medium, not to mention writer's cramp. I do carry a notebook with me in the event I feel compelled to write while I am away from my computer. Then, upon returning home, I transfer my writings to my computer, immediately burning the pages afterwards. I store all of my writings on an external hard drive, which I keep in a locked safe when I'm not writing and saving data to it. I honestly fear what would happen if my writings would fall into the wrong hands, not only to me but to the rest of the world. I'm not saying that I'm writing anything that could change the world, but then again it might. I certainly wouldn't change things like the people who won the Nobel Peace Prize or anything along those lines, but it might change things in other ways that I can't even imagine. Maybe all of this is in my own head, and that these writings would do nothing more than commit me to a lifetime stay in the local nut ward. But then I really don't know. Maybe I belong there. Maybe I should turn myself in and just ask for the padded room with the white jacket that makes you hug yourself. I've been there a couple times before. The first time was shortly after my life changed. I tried seeking help, thinking that maybe there was some cure or some medication that could help me. I tried describing as much as I understood to the doctors and nurses that worked with me. I tried explaining the parts that made sense to the therapists. I was labeled insane by all who worked there. Absolutely no medications helped me, and they tried numerous medications and combinations of medications. I was even zapped by electricity right out of the cuckoo's nest into my twisted reality. That didn't help me either. The more I told them, the worse it became. So I learned to stop telling them anything. The other times I paid a visit to the padded rooms were after each one of my failed suicide attempts. By then I understood that they don't want to hear the truth. By then I learned the right things to say that they understood. I understood how to pretend like I was mentally ill and I was so depressed that I was suicidal. I understood how to pretend like I was getting better and that I was fit to be released again. I learned how to get out again playing their little game, since there was nothing that was within psychiatric medical science that could help me. There is nothing in physical medical science either, which I discovered after I tried explaining the minimum of what I thought might be caused by physical ailments. They tried numerous different tests, and nothing came back that was useful in any manner. So doctors of any kind are pretty much useless to help me. Isn't that some glorious news? Welcome to my life. Chapter 2. 5 years ago. "I love you," she whispered in my ear. "I love you more," I replied back. "There is no way that this beautiful young lady could possibly love me more than I love her. Does she not realize that she could do so much better than me? Why in the world is she choosing to spend her life with me? For that matter, the same question could be asked of anyone. I'm just me, nothing special, no special talents, and certainly no special abilities." In response to my statement, she smiles the world's most perfect smile back to me. My heart melts as the smile reaches to her eyes, and her eyes light up with a twinkle that no other woman could possibly possess. Her name is Hillary Eveston, and she owns my heart. She might as well take it home in a jar, because she owns it, and I wouldn't want anyone but her to have it. "Why do you always have to outdo me? Isn't it enough that we love each other?" she asks. Not out of anger, but curiosity. This woman always appears to be interested in every thought in my head, no matter how small. She is always inquiring as to what I'm thinking and how I feel about certain things, about everything. If only I could truly give her the ability to read each and every one of my thoughts. Why is she with me? She's so perfect. "I just want you to know that you mean more to me than you could possibly imagine," answering her question. She blushes a little with my response, making her even more adorable. For the longest moment, she just gazes into my eyes, unblinking. Does she have the power to look directly into my soul? It sure seems as though she can. She blinks and looks away. Then she grins back up at me and says, "Thank you for today. It was great." Today, she had helped me move my things into this house that Larry and I had just bought and made the first down payment. I don't think I could have gotten it all done by myself. Once we had gotten all the boxes moved in, we ordered in pizza and lit some candles and watched the sun set over the hills. I couldn't think of a better way to end this Sunday evening. "No, it's you who I should be thanking. You helping out sure made this job a whole lot easier and a lot more enjoyable. I'm not sure it would have been bearable without pleasant company." I grinned at her, making it clearly obvious to her that she was the pleasant company I was referring to. We both leaned into each other on the couch and just stared at the flickering candle, no longer needing words to appreciate each other's company. We sat there for what seemed like hours, slowly watching the candle get shorter. I suddenly realized that her breathing had slowed and knew she had fallen asleep. What a magnificent idea. I followed her lead and closed my eyes and let sleep consume me. Chapter 3. "Hey, you two sleepyheads." Larry's carefree demeanor had Hillary and I popping our eyes open immediately, in the surprised manner that only comes with being woke from a start. It took me a moment to recall where I was, the first night having slept in this house, and on the couch no less. Hillary seemed to recall her surroundings much faster than I, having remember drifting off, watching the candle, and holding each other as we drifted off to sleep. "What's on the agenda for today?" Larry asked. Still waking up, I was a little slow in my response. I responded, "I don't know what's going on today yet. I know I gotta find me a job that's a little closer to home. You're fortunate to have your gas station being so nearby. Why do you think I picked this house? Easy commute, he responded with a laugh. I knew what Hillary had to do today. She had classes and would soon have to be all grown up with the responsibilities that only adults really know. Our childhoods are always taken from us so quickly as more and more responsibilities are gained with each year we grow older. I wished that I could help her somehow, but she had made it clear to me on more than one occasion that she needed to do the work to truly receive the benefits of her education. I had picked her up yesterday, so I would have to drop her back off at the dorms so she could get to her classes on time. Good thing her first class today is in the early afternoon. All Mondays should start later in the day. Larry probably knew she had class too, and had made sure we didn't oversleep. Larry is always looking out for me. What would I ever do without him? Hillary and I both got up from the couch. We both went to the kitchen, and I poured a bowl of cereal for her and myself. Good thing she had thought to remind me to pick up a few simple groceries so that way the kitchen wouldn't be completely bare. Larry followed us to the kitchen and leaned against the counter as he watched us eat. Any ideas of where you're going to apply for work, Jacob? I honestly hadn't really thought of it. I currently worked at a burger joint, flipping burgers and scooping fries. Certainly not the dream job or illustrious career one would hope for. When I had agreed to move into this house with Larry, I was looking forward to finding a different job. Anything to get me out of flipping burgers and grease stains. I was thinking maybe about that big supermarket in town. Surely they could use an extra hand at something. I could stock shelves or sweep floors, I thought aloud. I'm not really sure, quite honestly. Anything that pays the bills, I guess. Well, keep my pump and go in mind when you're dropping in applications. I could always use an extra hand. The first year was a little rough, but my gas station is running smoothly now, and business has been pretty steady. I'm always looking for good people, reliable workers that I can trust so that I can keep it running smoothly, Larry offered. Of course, the downside with that is that you couldn't call in sick on me and then go to a party, he chuckled. Oh, geez, man, that would suck, I joked right back to him. But tell me honestly, when have you ever known me to be the partying kind? He just smiled at me and patted me on the shoulder as he walked out. Larry was on his way to his gas station and make sure it was still running like a well-oiled machine. That's the thing about running your own place. You're in charge of all the little things, from bathroom breaks for the employees to tax identification numbers to buying product to turn around and resell. Hillary got up and started cleaning the kitchen up from our little breakfast. You go get dressed to impress, she told me with a playful shove in the direction of the bathroom and my bedroom. I'll wait here. I was not thrilled about job hunting, and I rolled my eyes at her. But her pleasant demeanor and genuine encouragement made the task a little easier. At least I would feel okay until I had to drop her off. For a moment I pondered suggesting she come with me for support, but I knew she would laugh that off and remind me that she had an education to work on. She would always call me a big, powerful man every time I was the least bit unsure of myself. It was corny enough that it would usually shake my moments of insecurity, even if the description was a little outdated and ridiculous. I was not big, and certainly not powerful. Most people would question how I managed to stand up in a strong wind. But my ego was easily influenced, and it was always enough to do the trick. It would help to restore all the confidence I needed. That's what I loved about her. She always seemed to know exactly the right words to say to me, exactly what I needed to hear, even if they weren't what I wanted to hear. The 45-minute drive to the university seemed to fly by way too fast. Before I knew it, she had given me a quick kiss and was getting out of the car. A quick, "I love you," said by both of us in unison, seemed to go too quickly. We made plans that I would stop by in the evening to see her after her last class of the day. Even though it was the same as any other time I had dropped her off, it seemed like time was rushing forward and it happened too quickly. Perhaps it was simply because I was dreading the whole job hunting thing that awaited me once she was off. It is often said that you should always tell the people that you care about how much you love them each chance you get, since this life gives us no guarantees that you will see them again. I've always been a believer in this understanding, and as such, never took anything for granted. That being said, we still could have kissed a little longer, perhaps hugged each other in the car a little longer. We didn't, because we knew we would see each other that evening. She would help me to relax and calm down after the stress I was sure to encounter today. It was a given. Neither of us were going anywhere. No force on earth could possibly rip us apart. Chapter 4. "How is your job hunting today, Jakey?" Hillary asked as she climbed into my car. I roll my eyes at her and make an audible groan. She is the only one that gets away with calling me Jakey, and she knows it. Anyone else would be firmly reminded that my name is Jacob, not Jakey. In all honesty, though, she could call me whatever her sweet little heart desired, and I would be okay with it. At least, I think I would be. I imagine if it was something terribly annoying, I might not be so willing to tolerate it. But Jakey is pretty much as bad as it gets with her, so I let it slide and only give the occasional groan. This groan only seems to encourage her. Women. "It went just fine, Hills." I always call her Hills in response, although she doesn't ever seem to mind this at all, and she just smiles, always amused at my lame and horrible attempt at revenge for her calling me Jakey. The supermarket was having a hiring fair today. I put my application in, but it will probably just get lost in the stack. There were no other businesses that really looked that promising for steady work. I'll probably be stuck applying to Larry's Pump and Go. "You never know. You might be surprised. Don't give up so easily." She could tell I was discouraged by my less than productive day and tried to do her best to cheer me up. "And besides, even if you do have to work for Larry, I bet he'll be a fun guy to work for." She chuckled. "Fun guy. Mushrooms." I couldn't help but laugh with her. We've all seen those fun guy shirts that make such a brilliant play on words. They're almost lame in all reality, but she thought the accidental fun guy joke was funny. So, who was I to argue? I'm a complete sucker as far as Hillary's concerned. Her laughter is an invincible contagion to me. She laughs, I laugh. That's just the way it is. "See, it'll all be okay. You just wait and see," she encourages. She can feel that my stress and discouragement has melted in her presence along with the help of her silliness. Everything will all work out for the best. It always does. Hillary and I decide to go find a nice quiet restaurant to eat at since she couldn't actually come home with me that night. She had an early class in the morning, and the drive to the house and back just wasn't realistic. And besides, a nice quiet meal together is just as good as a quiet evening at home. We pick a small Italian place that doesn't look too crowded and pick out a booth near the back. We cuddle up on the same side of the booth, and I put my arm around her. She seems to just melt into me. The dim lighting of the restaurant makes for a romantic atmosphere as we each order a plate of spaghetti. The most wonderful thing about our relationship is that we don't always need words. Sometimes we can just be together, and just the physical contact between our bodies is enough to completely make everything in this world seem okay. Even though I had a stressful day, and I'm sure her day was equally taxing with her classes, we just enjoyed the moment in this quiet corner of the restaurant, just holding on to each other. Although kissing was entirely unnecessary, I did take a moment to bring her face up to mine and kiss her on the lips. A longer kiss, the kiss we should have parted with this morning when I dropped her off. "So, how was your day?" I asked her. We separated at this moment as our food had arrived, and eating was an easier task when we had full use of our hands. "Oh, just the usual. Same old bull, different day," she responded. Clearly, it had been a busy day for her as well, but nothing really out of the ordinary but the normal classwork and drama that usually transpires on a university campus. I've got a 20-page paper due next week in one class, and then I have to pick someone influential in the community to interview for my other class. She rolled her eyes. I haven't even the foggiest idea who I would interview or who would even be that interesting to warrant an interview, she complained. I put down my fork, held her hand, and leaned in to give her a hug. "It will be okay. You are the smartest person I know. You'll blow that paper out of the water, and you'll find a way to make even the dullest person seem interesting." I grinned at her in encouragement. After all, she had helped to make me feel better, and what I was dealing with was trivial compared to all of her classwork. "Thank you," she said. "I don't know how I will manage, but I always do. You're right about that. Just another assignment. I hope it all pays off someday." We ate the rest of our meal in silence. Once I was finished, I wiped my hands on my napkin and laid the money on the table for the waitress to pick up. I usually finish eating before she does, so I took this moment to rub her shoulders while she ate. As I massaged the stress of her day away from her, she seemed to soften into her normal carefree self. Even after she was finished eating, I continued to work my hands and fingers into the aching muscles of her shoulders and neck. She turned to me and gave me a kiss. We then left the restaurant and went back to my car. I took her back to the university and walked her to the door of her dormitory. We kissed one more time, and she let herself inside. I watched her through the door for as far as I could see her, and then I turned to walk back to my car. I got into my car and started the long drive back home. I felt so much better after our nice supper together. This woman can truly heal me in ways that no one else can. She has such an amazing ability to make even the worst day seem better. About halfway home, there is a stretch of highway that I never quite trusted. A large forest bordered either side of the highway, and the trees threatened to swallow up the road. Large fences were built on either side of the road to barricade Mother Nature from reclaiming this route. With the lights built into the fence posts, the illusion of driving down a brightly lit canal works to give the drivers a sense of safety. Occasional wildlife still find their way into the road, proof that Mother Nature cannot be defeated by such extreme measures. So, I always drive slower through this stretch to give myself greater reaction time, especially at night. As I was driving down this stretch of highway, I felt something I had never felt before. Fear. This highway should not be scary to me. A deer or raccoon finding its way through the fence and causing damage to your vehicle was always a given possibility. But nothing should give me the terror that I felt right now. I looked from side to side across the road in front of me. There was absolutely nothing that was different from any other time I'd driven down this road. Yet the hairs on the back of my neck stood up, my pulse quickened, and I felt real fear.